Hi everybody, I'm Miss Beth and I want to welcome you to the High Gas Fee Studio. Okay, well if you've watched any of our videos, you realize that this is not the High Gas Fee Studio. But I wanted to take you on a little adventure. You see, I love fishing. I love especially saltwater fishing, where I am out on the bays or in the ocean. So I thought I would take you fishing with me because I want to tell you about an artist who was a fisherman. Yeah, he loved to fish and he loved art. His name is Guy Harvey, and have I got a story for you. I have a great story that I want to tell you about a fisherman artist. He was born a little over 60 years ago, and his parents were named Mr. and Mrs. Harvey. They lived in Germany, but when their son, that they named Guy, turned 1 year old, they moved the family back to their home country of Jamaica. Do you know where Jamaica is? It's the third largest island in the Caribbean. So they moved back to Jamaica. Now, Guy has an older brother who's a few years older than him. His name is Jonathan. And they love growing up in Jamaica. They love going on hikes. They love swimming and diving. They like to ride horses. And Guy and his brother especially like to fish. That's right. They loved fishing and fished all the time. Now, Guy's family owned a cattle farm, so they were out in the rural part of Jamaica. That means out in the country. And so there were no schools out there. Now, I know a lot of you are going, woohoo! But little Guy and his brother needed an education. So when Guy was only 5 years old, he had to be taken to the city of Kingston and left there for the week to live with another family for him to go to school. How do you think that went over? Yeah, Guy and his brother, neither one liked it very much at all, but they had to do it. Their parents knew they needed an education. So Guy and his brother, they looked so forward to the weekends and holidays where they could go back to the farm and go fishing. When Guy turned 9, he had to go to another school. This one was a long way from Jamaica. This one was in England. It's called a boarding school. It's where you go and you live while you are getting your education, and you can only come home on holidays. Guy did not like it at all, but he knew he had to do it. So he tried to find some things that would distract him. He found that he loved playing cricket, he liked playing soccer, and he loved to draw. He would draw all the time. And he had a great art teacher at the school. She would encourage him to go out in nature, since he loved that, and to draw the things he saw in nature. Now hang on a minute. I got a little bit of a nibble. Okay, I'm good. So he would do that. He would go out and he would draw the things he saw out in nature. But he also liked to draw planes and army tanks. So drawing was a great thing for him. Sports was a great thing for him. But there was something that I would say changed his life when he turned 17 years old. His mom mailed him a book by the artist Ernest Hemingway. The title of the book was called The Old Man and the Sea. Guy started reading this book and he fell in love with the book. One reason is because it reminded him of Jamaica and the fishermen that he would see when he was home in Jamaica. It reminded him of those fishermen because the story is about a fisherman named Santiago. He lives in Cuba, which is also in the Caribbean, and he's having the worst luck with fishing. He has this little poor-looking fishing boat. He doesn't have a rod and reel like I have. Instead, he's just got a line and a hook. But Guy had seen quite a few people fish that way, so that reminded him of home. The Santiago headed out to go fishing one day after having days and days and days of bad luck. He gets out there, he doesn't catch hardly anything. And he said, I'm not going to come in until I catch something. Finally, after many days out on the water, his line begins to run. Santiago grabs a line. He pulls very hard, but he can tell it's a monster of a fish. He wound up wrapping the line around his body and holding on to the fish. After many, many hours, the fish came out of the water. And you know what it was? It was a marlin. They are humongous. Santiago had to get this fish in. The story tells Santiago's adventures of getting that fish back home, a fish that was bigger than his boat. Guy read that book over and over and over again. It says that he has read it over 100 times. That's how much he loves the book. And he fell in love with marlin fish. It's a billfish. He says he loves them because they're strong, they're predators, and they are beautiful. There was one thing that he didn't like about it. Didn't have any illustrations. Do you know what an illustration is? It's a picture that tells the story. It had no illustrations. He shopped around to see if he could find a copy of the book that had illustrations, and he found one, but when he looked at it, he thought, I can do illustrations better than that, and that's what he did. As he read the book, he began to draw out the scene that was playing in his mind, and he drew it in a different kind of way. He used a technique called stippling. That is using tiny little dots. If something needed to be dark, he would do a whole lot of dots real close together. He began to draw pictures, and he wound up with 44 illustrations of the old man in the sea. Of course, he put them away. He was proud of them. And it was time for him to move on. It was time for him to further his education. Well, once his mom sent him that book, he decided, that's what I want to do. I want to study fish. There is an actual degree where you study fish. Kind of sometimes wish maybe I had done that. Anyway, he wants to study fish, so he goes to a college there in Scotland, and he studies marine sciences. Marine is the study of water, the things that live in the water, the things that rely on the water, the ecosystem, the plants, all of that. Guy loves studying marine science. And he got to go diving and swimming a lot while he was in Scotland. And what he discovered was there was this entire world underneath the surface of the water. He graduated with honors. He did very, very well with his schooling. And he came back to Jamaica, and he decided he would continue his education. He was going to try to get his doctorate in marine science. He worked very hard, studied very hard. When he was at the laboratory, he was cutting open fish to figure out how they work and what their anatomy was. And when he wasn't studying them in the laboratory, he would sign up for fishing tournaments. Sounds like a great way to get an education, doesn't it? Because he knew that these fishermen would be coming in and they'd be bringing their catches, and especially that fish that was one of his favorites, the marlin. When the fisherman would bring him in, he would be the first one with his notepad and pencil. He would watch them as they opened up the great big marlin, and he was constantly taking notes and learning. Guy came up with an idea. He wondered if there was some way that he could do his fishing and his art somehow together, maybe even to make a little bit of money. And so he would set up a booth at these fishing tournaments that had some of his prints, especially the ones of the old man and the sea. When people came to the tournament, they would come by his booth, and they loved his artwork. He sold out. At the next tournament, he began to paint fervently in order to have something to sell. People loved his artwork, and it began to grow and grow and grow. People began to contact him. Do you have another painting of a blue marlin? How about some dolphin fish? Hey, I'm looking for a sea turtle. And he painted The cool thing about Guy Harvey was he didn't just look at another picture or a photograph and paint that. He knew those fish. He knew that marine life because of all of his study. He knew it like the back of his hand. He knew from his diving expeditions what those fish look like under the water. And that's something that I want you to see, that I think makes his artwork so incredible. I want to show you a few of his paintings. And we're going to look especially at the fish that are under the water. Guy knew that as the light enters the water, it makes these beautiful rays. And the rays, when they hit the back of the fish, cast these odd, crazy, swirly patterns on their backs. He also knew that he wanted to paint the fish that were close to the surface. 2 reasons. One was he loved it when the fish broke the surface of the water because you could see bubbles and splashes and the rays get all crazy, and he loved painting that. He also knew the deeper that he painted what he saw, the less details he could see. You see, the sunlight only goes down so far before it starts to get dark. And so he knew, I need to remember what these fish look like when they're close to the surface of the water. Let's take a look at a few of them. Here's one that he painted of billfish. The one on the top and to the right are marlin, and the one on the left is a sailfish. Remember me saying he loved to paint them up close to the surface of the water? Look at how their dorsal fins and their tail have broken the top of the water and dragged a lot of air bubbles down with them. This one's called a mother's touch. Here we have a mama whale and her little baby. Thing is, he's not very little, is he? Can you see how she is blowing air out of her blowhole? The way he was able to make those bubbles come up to the surface of the water. What I especially love about Guy Harvey's paintings are the way he can make those rays of light come down through the water, and how those rays dance across the backs of those whales. And here's one he did that the fish aren't even in the water. It is a painting of tuna. I love eating tuna fish. And look how beautiful the blue and the yellow are on these wonderful marine animals. And here's one of my favorite mammals. It's a dolphin. Again, they've broken the surface of the water. And there's even some little feeder fish swimming around them. Look at the designs on their backs that come from the rippling water. Here is Guy painting a mural. Do you know what a mural is? It's a great big painting on a wall, sometimes a building, or even a ship maybe. And what is he painting? Sea turtles. And I love all the other little fish he's added along in the sandy bottom of the sea. Now here's a fighter. These are called tarpon. It probably isn't hard to see these near the surface of the water because they love jumping out of the water. Never been tarpon fishing before, but they say they are spectacular when they breach out of the water, and they are definitely fighters. Look at the colors that he used on them. It's almost like the water in this one has a green tint to it. If you're ever out on the ocean, you know that on any given day, at any given time, the water could be a myriad of shades. It can be bright blue, dark blue, green. It can even be a muddy brown. Here's another one that I especially like. It's of a sailfish. One day, I'm going to catch one of those. I haven't had the opportunity yet, but I am going to catch one of those. They are magnificent creatures. Look at the color in that sail. Look at the colors along his side. And then, of course, we have some very playful alligator gars swimming all around him. People like and appreciate Guy Harvey so much that they have even asked him to paint murals on a cruise ship. Yes, that is a ship from the Norwegian Cruise Line. And it's got wonderful paintings on the bow, which is on the front of the boat, and even some fabulous paintings on the stern. That's the back of the boat. As you can see, his artwork is incredible, and people love his dynamic fish and marine life scenes. They love it so much, they want to wear it. Yes, he has allowed companies to put prints of his great artwork on t-shirts, on hats, on shoes, and as we saw on the last slide, even on great big ships. It's cool. If you go to a sporting goods store now, a fishing store, you'll walk around and suddenly you're going to see Guy Harvey apparel. And if you're like me, you're going to want some. Something that I admire even more about Guy Harvey is the fact that he is a conservationist. That means he wants to take care of all of these things, these fish, these birds that we hear, all the plants that are growing that feed this whole ecology of marine life. He wants it to be around for a long time. And so he opened up a foundation, or started a foundation. It's called the Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation, and it's where he has put money in and other people can put money in, and it helps to fund research to make sure all these fabulous things stay around for hundreds and hundreds of years. That, I have come to find out from researching him, is probably the most important thing to him. He cares that we take care of the birds. He wants us to obey the laws and the regulations when it comes to fish, the size of fish we catch, how many fish we catch. He wants to make sure that bird sanctuaries, little islands where they keep birds, stay healthy so that we have these fabulous gulls, laughing gulls that you hear laughing in the background, and seagulls that fly by, and those pelicans. He wants to make sure they're around for a long time. And that's something that I really admire about Guy Harvey. So he has a special place in my heart because he's a fisherman and an artist. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned because as this week goes on, I'm going to be doing some really fun activities about fish, about marine science, some drawings that I think are going to be pretty easy, but a whole lot of fun. So keep checking in with YouTube, look at some of these drawings, and remember to stay safe and stay healthy.